Millionaire tries to mock illiterate Maid's help, but her secret leaves everyone stunned. A hush fell over Thomas Everhart's mansion as the shimmering chandelier cast flickering lights across the marble floors. It was a lavish charity event, the kind where people tossed money around like confetti. But Thomas stood apart, tension coiling in his chest like a tightly wound spring. Just days ago, a groundbreaking deal had slipped through his fingers, and now anger simmered beneath his meticulously polished exterior. He rolled his eyes at the guests gliding around him, each laugh a sharp poke in his wound. There they were, all smiles and champagne, while he felt like a pariah trapped within these gilded walls. But his frustration was momentarily forgotten as Maria, the new maid with an unassuming presence, caught his eye. She flitted around, her plain dress stark against the extravagance of the evening. He leaned against the polished banister, looking down at her with a mix. A cruel smile slid onto his lips. Beneath his breath, he mocked her. "What's next? Cleaning out my bank account too?" His words vanished into the ether, but the lingering irony didn't escape him. Just moments later, Maria brushed past him, her hand briefly grazing a folded document on the table. He was too lost in thought to notice, but saw her eyes widen as she caught a glimpse of the critical figures and names that could revive his failing fortunes. "Wait!" he barked, stepping closer. The sudden sharpness in his tone caused nearby conversations to halt. The room shifted, guests whispering behind their flutes of champagne, their attention now fixed on the standoff. Maria froze, her eyes darting between him and the document. I didn't mean to," she stumbled, her voice barely above a whisper. There was something about her, a flicker of intelligence, hidden beneath the surface. A feeling of unease racked around Thomas's heart. Did you understand any of that? He leaned closer, a perilous game of intimidation brewing between them. She looked down, the softness of her demeanor rattling his confidence. But then something changed. With a surprising steadiness, she spoke again. "It's not just numbers. It's about the landing zone and the mergers." Gasps echoed around the room. People leaned in, their expressions a mix of disbelief and intrigue. Even Thomas felt his stomach drop. How could she know about landing zones and mergers? Suddenly, he felt the weight of scrutiny, as if every guest's disapproval weighed down on him. In that moment, with the eyes of the social elite boring into him, his mind raced. Should he belittle her, put her in her place as he had planned? Or was there a glimmer of something more? Was he truly underestimating her? Maria continued, her quiet confidence rising like a swell against the tide. "You missed a detail about the contracts. Something pivotal." A hush swept across the crowd. All eyes were on her, electric tension crackling in the air. Thomas's heart raced as a chill ran down his spine. What did she know that he didn't? No one dared to break the palpable silence. Just like that, a simple maid had transformed from inconsequential to vital. Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below. to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. The room remained silent, the tension thick like fog. Maria held her breath, her eyes searching for recognition in Thomas's face. The crowd leaned in, the world outside fading away. All they could see was the spark igniting between these two unlikely opponents. Thomas's heart raced. Where had she learned this? His mind swirled, calculating his next move. He could regain control. He could bark a dismissive comment. Yet, something inside him tugged at his conscience. He glanced away, caught off guard by an inner turmoil he hadn't expected to feel. Merging is about synergy, Maria pressed, her voice gaining strength. Losing sight of that detail could cost you everything. He felt the weight of every eye on him, the scrutiny sharper than any knife. But before he could respond, a loud crash shattered the air, a sound like the world collapsing. The grand chandelier above them trembled, dust raining down like powdered gold. Gasps echoed, and then it happened, a sudden flash of blinding light, followed by a deafening explosion. A portion of the ceiling crumbled, sending shards of plaster and crystal cascading through the air. People shrieked. Thomas reached for Maria, but the blast threw him back. The room transformed into chaos. Screams filled the air. Guests scrambled, panic igniting their movements like fire. Bodies collided, frantically searching for escape. Thomas's thoughts raced, tangled in confusion and fear. He pushed through the crowd, instinct urging him toward the exit. As he moved, he caught sight of Maria. She was still standing there, eyes wide, frozen in shock. "Maria, get out!" he yelled, desperation slicing through the chaos. But then she broke from her stupor. When she moved, it was toward the unfolding mass of injured people, instead of away from danger. Thomas felt a moment of disbelief. Did she truly care about those who'd fallen? His confusion morphed into admiration, a feeling foreign in the midst of panic. In that frantic swarm, a familiar face appeared, pushing through the crowd. It was Clara, Thomas's closest ally and confidant, a woman he had trusted for years. Yet her expression sent icy tendrils of fear curling in his stomach. She turned pale as she reached him, panic flooding her eyes. "Thomas, it's not just a collapse." Her voice trembled with urgency. "Look!" And that's when he saw it. A figure cloaked in shadows slipping through the chaos, headed straight for Maria. Thomas's heart dropped as realization crashed upon him like the debris overhead. In that instant, he understood. This wasn't mere happenstance. It was deliberate. "Maria!" he shouted, but the din swallowed his voice. The shadow drew closer, and instinct propelled him forward. He pushed through the throng, desperate to reach her. "Get away from her!" But the air thickened with more than just dust. Heavy, ominous energy surged in the room, wrapping around them all. Light flickered as the figure approached, revealing a face Thomas knew all too well. His estranged brother, Lucas. A man he had buried deep in the shadows of his past. A fraudster and a master manipulator. "Hello, brother." Lucas's smile was predatory, eyes glinting with malice. "All your secrets are about to unravel." Everything faltered. The room, the chaos, the mockery of a maid, it all shifted. Maria's strength, once merely surprising, now felt like a flicker of hope against an engulfing darkness. Thomas's mind reeled. Priorities crumbled, the stakes higher than he had ever imagined. The facade of wealth disintegrated, lost in the weight of buried family secrets. What was Lucas doing here? What did he want from them? "Stop!" Thomas yelled, fear mingling with anger, and the question hanging in the air. Who would be pulled into the chaos next? Thomas's heart raced and his breath hitched. Lucas couldn't be here. Not now. Not like this. He tried to shove through the panic-stricken crowd, but people were scrambling, desperate to escape. The noise grew, cries mixed with shattered glass and the smell of dust and fear. "Get away from her!" he shouted again, desperation clawing at his throat. But Lucas only laughed, that wicked, familiar laugh that sent chills down Thomas's spine. "Oh, dear brother," Lucas said, voice dripping with sweetness. "This isn't about me. This is about you." "And her." Thomas followed Lucas's gaze and felt his stomach drop. Maria stood frozen, eyes locked on Lucas. The fear in her face cut deep. But then, as if the fog of confusion lifted slightly, she narrowed her eyes. "What do you want, Lucas?" she demanded, voice steadier than before. "I want what's mine," he replied, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "And I'm not just talking about the family fortune. I'm talking about the truth." The crowd's whispers echoed, a ripple of confusion spreading among them. Thomas felt trapped, like he was caught in a net of lies and apprehensions. What truth? He could feel the collective breath of the room, suspended, ready to shatter into chaos again. "Thomas," Lucas continued, stepping closer to Maria, "you've built your empire on deception. And now it's time for the world to see what you really are." Before Thomas could respond, Lucas reached into his coat and pulled out a small flash drive. "This will change everything!" A gasp ripped through the guests. "Don't play with fire, Lucas," Thomas barked, raw anger fueling his words. "You can't do this." "Oh, but I already have," Lucas replied, voice smooth and calculated. "All your secrets are on this drive. Financial fraud, betrayals, even secrets of your precious maid." Thomas's breath hitched. Maria looked like she'd been slapped. "What do you know about me?" she whispered, a mix of fear and defiance in her tone. "More than you think," Lucas said, grinning like a cat who'd cornered its prey. "Let's just say I have my sources, and they've led me deeper into this family than you might imagine." Suddenly, the tension shifted again. There was a loud crash, another tremor, and the lights flickered ominously. People shrieked, tearing their eyes from the unfolding drama. The chandelier swayed dangerously, as if predicting the chaos yet to come. Time seemed to freeze as a chilling truth dawned on Thomas. Lucas was manipulating everything. This wasn't just about money or secrets. It was personal. And what if this was all part of a greater scheme? No, Thomas said, his voice low, barely a whisper. I'd waited long enough, Lucas continued, eyes gleaming with malice. And now you will pay, all of you. This is just the start. Before Thomas could react, Maria's expression shifted. She stepped forward, a look of determination crossing her features. You don't scare me, Lucas, she declared, the strength in her voice surprising them all. Whatever you think you know, it won't work. Is that so? Lucas said, smirking as he leaned closer. What if I told you your father is involved in this? That you aren't as innocent as you pretend to be? The air grew icy, and Thomas couldn't breathe. Maria's face paled, confusion fraying into fear. What? She breathed, eyes welling with uncertainty. Just then, another loud sound erupted, the kind of sound that shakes the very foundation of a building. The remaining ceiling tiles descended with a bang, sending dust and debris swirling like a storm. In one swift moment, everything shattered. The chaos erupted anew as people pushed and shoved, scrambling to escape. Thomas looked at Maria, panic spilling through him. Maria, we need to... But before he could finish, she turned, eyes gleaming, resolve unwavering. No, you need to listen. Outside the swirl of madness and noise, one question echoed louder than the others. What if everything they thought they knew was a lie? What if the truth was hidden deeper than anyone could fathom? As the dust settled around them, the fate of all three hung precariously in the balance, each unaware that the true battle was only just beginning. The dust still hung thick in the air, stinging their eyes and settling over fear-stricken faces. Maria was steady, but her heart raced. She searched Lucas's gaze for any hint of weakness. "What do you mean?" she asked, voice firm, yet laced with uncertainty. Lucas chuckled, that sinister laugh echoing around the room. "You think you're different? You don't know the truth about your own past. Not even your precious Thomas knows." Thomas's breath caught in his throat. The weight of those words crashed over him, every word hiding a chilling secret. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, turning sharply toward Maria. The panic in his chest flared, twisting like a knife. Before Lucas could reply, the lights flickered again. The chandelier swayed threateningly above, and a chilling silence filled the grand room. And then, a loud boom! The ground shuddered beneath them, the wall cracked. Guests screamed, scattering like scared birds. But amidst the chaos, Maria stood transfixed, eyes locked on Lucas. Thomas felt an icy grip on his heart. Suddenly, the wall exploded outward like a wave, and amidst the debris, a figure emerged. The room gasped collectively. A woman covered in soot. The familiarity hit Thomas like a freight train. It was Clara, but she was different. Eyes wild, hair disheveled, breaths heavy with urgency. "Damn it, Lucas! This isn't what we agreed on!" Clara shouted, her voice cracking with desperation. She pushed through the rubble. Everyone gaped. The truth unfolded like a twisted vine, wrapping around their minds. Thomas's blood ran cold. "Clara, you knew him?" "Shut up, Thomas!" she snapped, throwing a glance at him that was both fierce and terrified. "You don't understand." The tension rippled through the crowd, whispers spiraling. "What's happening?" Maria muttered, confusion knitting her brow. Lucas crossed his arms, a sly smile dancing on his lips. This is the part where you discover how deeply intertwined your lives really are. Enough, Clara shouted, her voice piercing. I'm here to end this. Lucas, you've gone too far. That name, Lucas, hung in the air like an unsolved riddle. The connection started to twist and coil. What are you talking about? Thomas asked again, panic rising in his throat. Maria, you need to know. Clara turned to her, voice trembling. You're not just a maid. You're part of this twisted family. Gasps erupted, breath hitching in throats. Thomas's heart sank. What? Lucas stepped forward, his tone triumphant. You're not who you think you are, Maria. You're my daughter. Time stood still. Silence cloaked the chaos like a shroud. All eyes turned to Maria, wondering, waiting. What? She gasped. That can't be true. Yes, you were taken from me. But now I'm claiming what's rightfully mine, Lucas declared, relish coating his words. Maria trembled, disbelief flooding her. Was it a lie? A cruel trick? Thomas's mind raced. Could this be true? The woman he thought he knew, the secrets she carried, were they born from something deeper? No! Maria screamed, shaking her head, tears filling her eyes. You're lying! But Clara stepped closer, voice heavy with sorrow. It's true, Maria. I found out after I left. Quantum shock waves rippled through the room again. The crowd watched in horrified awe, no one daring to breathe. Help her! You need to help her! Clara yelled over the din, urgency vibrating through her words. Thomas reached for Maria, but she stepped back, eyes wild. How could you do this to me? Maria! Thomas called, but she gazed at the figures around her, transforming from the maid he thought he knew into something else entirely. He felt panic holding him hostage. The weight of secrets stung with every breath. The chandelier trembled overhead, dust raining like memories falling apart. Another tremor reverberated through the floor. The ceiling crumbled more, the chaos intensified, and amidst it all, one thought echoed louder than the rumble. What more lies lingered in the shadows? What secrets could unravel their world? The room hung in a thick silence. All eyes turned to Maria, hearts racing, breaths shaky. The truth lay bare, and Lucas reveled in it. The weight of his words pressed down like the dust swirling around them. Maria trembled. Fingers clenched into fists. You're lying, she shouted, eyes wide and glistening. But uncertainty crept in, inching its way into her thoughts. Am I? Lucas replied, stepping closer. The crowd's whispers became a low hum, every ear straining to catch the unraveling tale. You think you're just a maid. You're a part of this family, and more importantly, you're a pawn in a game much bigger than you know. Thomas's heart thundered in his chest. He grappled with disbelief. How could this be true? Stop! He yelled, desperation spilling from his lips. You can't just say things like that. But Lucas only smiled, a wolfish grin that sent chills dancing down Thomas's spine. It's time everyone knew the truth, including you, brother. Suddenly, the low rumble returned, a sound building in intensity, like the ground itself was protesting against the weight of buried secrets. The chandelier overhead trembled dangerously, casting frantic shadows across terrified faces. Before anyone could react, another explosion echoed from below. The floor shook violently, a tremor reeling through the crowd. Gasps erupted as furniture toppled. People staggered backward, the air rife with panic. "Get down!" someone shouted, yet it was drowned in chaos. Thomas's mind raced. He grabbed Maria, pulling her closer, shielding her from what felt like impending doom. "We need to leave." But she was frozen. Her gaze locked on Lucas, confusion swirling through her. And then it happened. Everything changed in an instant. From the smoke and debris, a figure emerged. Tall, cloaked, shadows woven into their form. A woman, raw and fierce. As she stepped into the dim light, recognition crashed over Thomas. It was his long-lost mother, Margaret. Shock reverberated through the crowd as she stood there, eyes blazing. "Lucas!" she cried out. The room fell silent, all eyes shifting to her, the explosive revelation weaving deeper intrigue. "You should not be here! You shouldn't have come!" she shouted, a mix of fear and fury coloring her tone. Lucas's face twisted, confusion momentarily clouding his expression. "Mother, I thought you were dead." "No," she declared, voice steady. "I faked my death to escape you, to protect my children." Gasps filled the room anew, this revelation unfurling like a flag in a storm. "Protect them from what?" Thomas whispered, heart sinking deeper. "From you!" Her accusation sliced through the air like a blade. "This has all been a trap, orchestrated by him. I had to hide the truth, to keep you safe, Maria, to keep you both alive." Thundering realizations rippled through Thomas. Every fear and pain he'd endured, every deception he'd clung to, suddenly clamored for attention. He glanced at Maria, disbelief etching deeper lines on her face. "No," she whispered, eyes widening, heart racing. "What did you mean? This has all been a trap." The ground trembled again. The wall of the mansion buckled, threatening to collapse. Everyone's eyes shot to Lucas, panic reflected in their gaze. "You planned this? You knew this would happen." "Yes, I wanted revenge for the life you stole from me." Lucas's words rang out, each syllable laced with venom. The crowd surged back, retreating from the widening chasm of hidden truths. Shadows danced on walls as the dust settled, obscuring everything in a veil of uncertainty. Thomas felt the world tilt beneath him, body trembling. "Maria, we need to get out!" he shouted, urgency clawing at his throat as the ceiling cracked with another ominous shudder. But before she could respond, a blinding light erupted from the flash drive Lucas still gripped tightly. "You think this is over? It's just beginning." The blaze intensified, bathing the chaos in a deadly glow, and for a moment, all thoughts froze. What more could this mean? What had they just unearthed? As uncertainty hung in the air, the question lingered. How deep did this web of betrayal stretch? And who would emerge unscathed when it was all said and done? The blaze from the flash drive intensified, casting eerie shadows on the faces of the panicked guests. It felt alive. almost humming with energy, as if it had a will of its own. Thomas's heart raced. "Maria, we need to get out, now!" he shouted, panic coursing through him. But all Maria could do was stare at Lucas, disbelief etched into her features. "Forget him!" Clara shouted, urgency lacing her words as debris fell from above. "We have to move!" But the disruption of the room faded in comparison to the whirlwind of emotions spinning in Maria's mind. "What did you mean, that I'm part of this family?" she whispered, eyes darting between Thomas and Lucas, each face a mix of familiarity and betrayal. The lights flickered ominously, and shadows closed in on them. Lucas smirked, relishing the chaos swirling around them. "Oh, Maria, you really don't understand, do you? You were born into all of this. Secrets, lies. It's in your blood." With each word, Thomas felt his resolve fracture. That wasn't just Lucas's game anymore. He was playing with Maria's heart, her sense of self. "No!" Thomas shouted again, stepping protectively in front of Maria. A loud crack interrupted the moment. The ceiling above them trembled as if it were alive, and the chandelier swayed dangerously overhead. Just then, a piercing whistle shattered the air. Then, it happened. A blinding flash erupted from the flash drive. Light pierced through the room like a knife, forcing everyone to cover their eyes. The sound was like thunder, a deafening roar that drowned out every other noise. When the light dissipated and the darkness faded, the room transformed into something unrecognizable. Smoke filled the hall, obscuring the guests' faces, leaving only outlines. Panic ignited everywhere. Amid the haze, the earth shook violently, and there it was, the unthinkable. From the chaos stepped a figure, tall and statuesque, emerging like a ghost from a forgotten past. The room gasped collectively. "No!" Thomas's voice quaked, recognition hitting him like a freight train. "It can't be." The shadowy figure moved closer, dust swirling in their wake, eyes locked onto Thomas with a haunting familiarity. The energy shifted. Then their voice, soft yet chilling, echoed in the softened silence. "I've come back to claim what was taken from me." Maria's face went pale, her fears reflected in Thomas's horrified expression. "Mom?" he whispered. The truth sunk in deeper than any weight. It was his mother, Margaret, thought lost to the world, believed to be dead. You're alive?" he stammered, the dam holding back grief breaking wide open. Shock and disbelief danced with relief in the chaotic air. "Yes, and so much more than you know," she replied, a fierce glow in her eyes, but pain etched on her face. "Everything I've done was to protect you both. This," she turned toward Lucas, fury igniting her gaze, "is the monster behind it all." Before anyone could process it, Clara cried out, "Thomas, get Maria out, now!" Thomas's mind raced as everything fell into place. The lies, the family connections, even the secrets Maria had harbored. The walls around them closed in. "No, you need to explain," he shouted back, desperation gripping him. "This doesn't make sense." But Margaret lifted her hand, silencing him. The energy around them thickened, palpable and suffocating. "It's too late for explanations," she cried. "They're coming for us, all of us." Lucas's laughter rang out, a chilling sound that echoed through the chaos. "You think you can escape?" he sneered. "You've only opened Pandora's box. The truth will reveal itself, and it won't be pretty." As the tension tightened, the world felt unstable. The ground shook again, fear creeping into their hearts, and just as Thomas gripped Maria's hand, pulling her away from the chaos, a sudden explosion echoed from the floor below. The mansion quaked as the darkness seeped upward. Then everything turned chaotic as shadows poured into the room, figures jostling in the haze. Thomas's mind raced. Who were they? Amidst the chaos, a familiar face materialized through the smoke. Clara's frantic eyes locked onto Thomas's, filled with terror. "We need to go! Now! They're here!" The question loomed over them thickly. Who was coming? What were the truths that lay buried beneath the surface? And as panic swept through the hall, the frail threads of relationship began to unravel, each secret hidden deeper than the last. All at once, everything fell apart. What should they trust? The desire for survival twisted their connections into fragile strings ready to snap. In that breathless moment, they stood on a razor's edge, untangling truths, spinning webs of betrayal. What awaited them on the other side of this chaos? Would their bonds withstand the storm? The mansion groaned around them. Dust dripped from the rafters like melted ice, heavy and slow. Thomas felt his pulse quicken. "We have to move!" he shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Lucas's manic laughter still echoed, wrapping around them like a noose. Margaret stepped forward, her presence electric. "Lucas, this isn't just your game anymore!" she shouted, eyes blazing. The tension surged. The crowd shifted, apprehensively watching every flicker of conflict. Was this the moment everything would unravel? "I don't care. You took everything from me," Lucas spat back, fury threading through his words. Thomas's breath hitched. He had never seen the man so unhinged. "Every piece of your precious little family is tainted." Maria was shaking now, caught in the storm. "Stop! Just stop!" she cried, and that plea hung heavy in the air. Another tremor shook the room. The lights flickered again, fearful reminders of instability. A low rumble came from the ground, building like a wave urging to crash. Clara darted close, seizing Thomas's arm. "It's not safe! We need to get her out!" Before he could respond, Lucas threw open his other arm wide, seemingly embracing the chaos. "You think running will save you? Everything is already lost." And then, from the shattered remnants of the smoke-filled room, a thick, black fog rolled in like a storm cloud. It snaked through the crowd, tendrils reaching out. A chill gripped Thomas's chest. Suddenly, a piercing scream sliced through the haze. A figure emerged, shrouded in shadow. A woman. She stepped forward, eyes shimmering with shadows, and as she drew closer, a jolt of recognition surged through Thomas. "Mom?" he whispered, heart hammering. But this wasn't Margaret. The woman's face was hauntingly familiar, yet twisted in ways that made Thomas's skin crawl. It was his mother, but different somehow. The anguish on her face twisted into a fiendish grin. "You thought it was over? Who are you?" Maria cried, backing away instinctively. The crowd shrank back as well, fear splintering through the air like glass shattering. "I am the truth you've all hidden from," the figure crooned, voice dripping like honey but sharp as a knife. It was a voice Thomas had heard before, laced with memories. but deeper, darker. And soon, you will all realize who the real monster is. What are you talking about? Thomas felt the panic grip him. You're not my mother. Ah, but I was, once. The shadowy woman smiled, a slow, wicked smile. Before everything fell apart. Before I lost everything. The room was still, the air thick with confusion and fear. The crowd shifted again, eyes darting between Thomas, Lucas, and this new woman. Whatever you're planning, it won't work, Lucas shouted, stepping forward defiantly. But the shadowy figure laughed, a sound chilling enough to freeze blood. It's already begun, dear brother. She waved her hand, and the lights flickered into darkness. Let the truth reveal itself. Without warning, the floor beneath them cracked, a deep chasm opening like a ravenous mouth. "Run!" Clara yelled, shoving Thomas and Maria away from the edge. As they stumbled back, everything shifted. Shadows surged up, swallowing flickering lights as thunder rumbled from deep within the cracks. Thomas's mind whirled. He grasped Maria's hand. We can't let her, whoever she is, take any more from us. We need to escape. As the crowd fled, panic reigning, the truth hung heavy in the air. With every desperate breath, one question remained. What truth lay beyond that chasm? And who were they really fighting against? The mansion trembled again, dust swirling around them like a dark omen. Thomas gripped Maria's hand tightly, pulling her away from the chasm that gaped beneath them. Panic whipped through the crowd. People screamed, shoving past each other in a frantic rush for safety. But Maria stood rooted to the spot, confusion racing through her. "Mom, what do we do?" Thomas shouted, trying to keep his eyes on both Margaret and Lucas. The tension felt like a taut string ready to snap. Margaret's eyes were fierce. "We have to expose Lucas for what he is. He's not just a brother, he's a monster!" "Enough of this!" Lucas roared, voice like thunder, shaking the very walls. "You think you can just walk in and take everything from me?" Suddenly, the lights flickered out, plunging the room into darkness. A collective gasp swelled from the crowd, and then, from the gloom, a chilling laugh echoed, a voice that sent shivers racing down Thomas's spine. "It's time to reveal the truth before anyone could react." A flash of white light erupted from the flash drive in Lucas's hand, illuminating the room with an eerie glow. The figure from the shadows stepped forward, and gasps rippled through the crowd once more. The figure was now revealed to be Clara. "I couldn't let you expose everything, Lucas," she said, her voice steady, yet laced with an edge of desperation. "Not yet." Thomas's heart dropped. "Clara, what's going on?" Confusion swirled in his mind, mixing with mounting dread. "I've played my part for far too long," she continued, stepping into the light with a fierce determination. "But the truth has to come out." She held up a second flash drive, its LED blinking ominously. "This contains everything, every secret we've hidden. The lies, the deals, even what really happened to Margaret." The room fell into an intense silence. Thomas's stomach twisted painfully. "What do you mean, Clara?" "I'm the key to this puzzle," Clara said, glancing toward Maria, who looked completely bewildered. "And Maria, you should know you're not just an innocent maid. You're the daughter of two families at war." "War?" Maria echoed, heart racing, eyes wide. What do you mean? Your mother, Clara shot back, was never lost. She was hidden to protect you from the truth. You have ties to both our families, and Lucas, he's not just your brother, but your biggest enemy. The ground shook violently again, and with a deafening crack, the floor beneath them gave way. People screamed, scrambling to find footing. Thomas felt the chaotic surge of bodies, pulling him and Maria dangerously close to the edge. "Get back!" he yelled, pulling Maria tightly against him. Through the dust and debris swirling in the air, a piercing scream echoed, yanking their attention. Clara was gone. Instead, another figure emerged. A man, tall and menacing, his presence darkening the room. "Enough games," he thundered, voice like gravel. "The truth isn't just buried, it's dangerous. You're all pawns in a much larger game, one that I control." Shock coursed through the crowd, eyes darting between the menacing figure and the chaos surrounding them. "Who are you?" Thomas shouted, his heart racing as he tried to make sense of this new player. "I'm the one who has waited while you played in the shadows," he said, a cruel smile curling at the corners of his lips. "And now the real hunt begins." As fear crashed over the room like a tidal wave, something deep inside Thomas broke. The truth lay before them, murky and twisted. But now it was wrapped in deeper shadows. Who was this man? And what did he want with them? Thomas's eyes locked onto Maria. "Whatever happens, we face this together," he insisted. But uncertainty danced between them. In that moment, the stakes transformed. Relationships twisted in ways they couldn't yet understand. The question lingered in the air. Who could they trust as the real danger closed in around them? The mansion trembled, a frenzy of shadows and uncertainty. Thomas could hardly breathe, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like a vice. He clutched Maria's hand, anchoring her amidst the chaos. The figure standing before them, tall and threatening, sent a chill creeping up his spine. The crowd surged backward, fear rippling through the air, as whispers of disbelief danced among them. "Enough games," the figure commanded, voice deep and resonant. "Let's end this farce." Suddenly, with a sweeping motion, he raised his hand, and the walls of the mansion shuddered. Dust fell like snowflakes, mingling with gasps of terror. Each person faltered in their escape, eyes glued to what felt like an impending storm. Thomas could see the confusion on Maria's expression. Her brows knitted together in disbelief. It mirrored his own turmoil. "Who are you?" Thomas yelled, voice barely holding through the panic. "I'm your father, Thomas. Your real father." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Stunned, silence enveloped the room as every guest seemed to hold their breath, disbelief coloring the atmosphere. Thomas could only stare, jaws tight with shock. "That's not true," he protested, yet a small, nagging seed of doubt sprouted inside him. Could it be? "I wasn't dead," the figure continued, stepping forward, brow furrowed with anger and sorrow. "I was forced into hiding because of your mother and Lucas." Thomas struggled to process this revelation. Everything he thought he knew was crumbling. The very foundation of his identity felt like it was being ripped away. Lies! Lucas interjected, anger boiling in his voice. You can't believe him. He abandoned us. But he's right. Margaret's voice broke through the chaos, raw and pleading. You don't understand the war raging beneath the surface. Your father, he's been fighting for our family all along. Maria stepped back, shaking her head as her world spun. What does that mean? She whispered, her patience fraying. Means your life isn't what you think it is, the shadowy figure soothed. I wanted to protect you both. From Lucas. From secrets buried so deep they could swallow us all. Another tremor rocked the mansion, dust swirling around them. Thomas grasped Maria's hand tighter. The ground beneath them groaned, a reminder that time was running out. Get out! Clara shouted, pushing back against the chaos, shoving Thomas and Maria toward the exit. Now! But in the pandemonium, a flicker of chaos drew Thomas's gaze back to the figure. If you're my father, why didn't you come back for us? The figure hesitated, eyes narrowing with pain. I couldn't. I was never supposed to be here. I wanted to protect you from those who would hurt you, from Lucas. The room fell silent. In that moment of quiet, a blood-curdling scream erupted from the crowd. Thomas turned just in time to see the true enemy materialize from the shadows. A cloaked figure lunged at Margaret, a knife glinting in the dim light. No! Thomas screamed, adrenaline flooding his veins as he leaped forward. But it was too late. The blade struck and time slowed. A gasp from Maria. A horrible, unbearable moment where everything twisted and bent, became visceral. Margaret faltered, eyes widening, and crumpled to the floor. Shock exploded around them, screaming and chaos enveloping. Thomas rushed to her side, heart pounding, a heavy lump lodged in his throat. Mom! But as he fell to his knees, cradling her bleeding form, another realization struck like lightning. The true battle had only just begun. The figure that had revealed the truth seemed to fade into the background, shadows swallowing his presence. Thomas felt the pain of betrayal sink deeper, his trust shattered into a million fragments. Who had turned against them? Would anyone emerge alive from this? In the palpable silence, one truth remained glaringly clear. The cost of secrets had just risen to an unfathomable price. As the dust settled, Thomas knelt beside Margaret, his mind racing with shock and heartbreak. He felt the warmth of her blood seeping through his fingers, and his heart felt like it was shattering. "Stay with me, Mom," he whispered, voice trembling. Panic brewed in his chest. Around him, chaos consumed the room. People pushing and shoving, screams echoing against the walls. But all he could focus on was her fading light. "You're going to be okay. Just hold on." Tears streamed down his face, blurring his vision. Margaret gasped, eyes fluttering, struggling to find her words. She reached up weakly and touched his cheek, her hand trembling. "Thomas, listen to me. Don't let Lucas win. You have to fight." Her voice trailed off, and he felt her strength slipping away. "No! Mom, please!" he cried, gripping her tighter. But he could feel the life leaving her. The world around him faded into a distant hum, where nothing mattered but her. Then, as if caught in a whirlwind, panic surged again. Clara, shaking with urgency, shouted, "Get them out! We can't stay here! Her voice cracked, each word pushing them forward. But Thomas couldn't move. I can't leave her! His heart ached, pure terror strumming the strings of his soul. Suddenly, Lucas shouted above the chaos, "This isn't over. We'll finish this." The threat hung ominously, feeling as real as the crumbling walls. The figure that had attacked Margaret watched from the shadows, eyes gleaming with malice. But Maria stepped forward, her voice steady now. "You're not getting away with this," she declared, defiance lacing her words. "We end this right here." That sparked a glimmer of courage in Thomas. He pulled Margaret's limp form close, heart racing with a sudden sense of urgency. "Maria, we need to pull together. We can't let him tear us apart." The moment was electric, a crackle of determination igniting in the air. With Clara at their side, the three stood united, forming a protective shield around Margaret. Light flickered as shadows closed in. "Grab her! We need to get out!" Clara shouted, urgency thick in her voice. Thomas couldn't let Lucas win, not now. As Clara lifted Margaret's body, Maria's brave eyes held his. In that moment, they forged a bond, a realization that they weren't just survivors. They were fighters. The crowd shifted, chaos multiplying with every passing second. They moved quickly toward the exit, navigating through the panic, the cacophony of screams blending with the thunderous rumble of falling debris. The air filled with dust and despair as they made their way out, clutching each other for support. Outside, the cool night air hit them like a balm. Fresh breaths filled their lungs. Stars twinkled in stark contrast to the darkness they left behind. But they weren't safe yet. Lucas stood, his gaze fiery, silhouetted against the wreckage of the mansion that once represented all their hopes. "This isn't over!" he shouted, voice filled with rage. But for the first time, Thomas met his brother's gaze with something more than fear. Defiance. "Oh, yes it is," Thomas replied, his voice firm, filled with resolve. "This ends now." As the group turned toward the horizon, hope flickered in their hearts. They were wounded, but they were alive. They had each other, but deeper questions thrummed beneath the surface. What would happen next? What would Lucas do now that the truth was out? And then it hit them. This was only the beginning of their fight, the first chapter in a series of battles yet to unfold. They were ready. No longer bound by fear, but driven by the fierce need to uncover the full truth. They held hands, facing the unknown together. A new world awaited them. Darkness lurking where light would soon break. And with that resolve, they stepped forward into the night, ready for whatever came next. If you've enjoyed this thrilling journey, you must subscribe now. Don't miss our next explosive story filled with secrets and revelations. Press that like button now to help feed the algorithm and keep this community growing. And flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories. Your voice matters. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to witness this ending. This is the time to show your support. Don't wait 1 second longer.